It's team. Hope we're good. Okay, so this is the first episode of Discover and Develop. So this will be 20 to 30 minutes of short, sharp information that you guys can utilize, take on board, and learn something within a short time frame and take it with you wherever. So the topic of the week is going to be stress. So I believe stress is one of the biggest factors in terms of inhibiting people's progress in their personal life as well as their physical progress with regards to their body and even with regards to their mental and emotional kind of progress as well. Stress inhibits a lot. And if we don't manage the way we deal with it, and stress comes in many forms, so obviously we'll discuss that. If we don't manage the way we deal with it and we don't manage how much stress that we go through each week, then it becomes extremely difficult to make any sort of progress whatsoever. There'll be adverse side effects of stress that will come up in many ways, as I'm discovering right now with regards to my injuries and trauma. There's a lot of kind of ongoing issues that you guys have obviously heard of. Could be autoimmune, could be something else, but either way, stress in excess, whether it's good stress or bad stress, is not going to be good for us whatsoever. So we're looking at what it is. So stress is how we react when we feel under pressure or threatened. So stress comes in many forms. Okay. Stress could be you've had an argument with your partner. Stress could be you're struggling to pay the bills. Stress could be someone speaking to you in a disrespectful tone or manner, and your brain can't possibly deal with it. Stress could be you have an untidy home and you can't take it anymore and you need to clean it. Stress could be you don't have enough time. Stress could be a lack of understanding from people to your current situation. Stress could be fear. It could come in many different forms, and it all could mount on top of you and feel like you can't deal with it all at once. So when we're going through particular stressful times, and let's say there could be a circumstance or situation that we've been through that we can't necessarily deal with right now, but we worry about it and we give too much thought and too much power to these thoughts, that kind of manifest gets worse, and we end up really struggling to be able to manage how we deal with all these stresses. And even if we're looking at good stress, doing a bench press in the gym, going out for a run, going for a long walk, sometimes meditation can be stressful. Sometimes even going to see a therapist, even though it's a good thing, can still be stressful. So, stress fills up the same cup, which I'll come to very soon. So we also sometimes don't have much or any control over the outcome of a situation. And sometimes when we don't have control and we're not managing the expectations of a certain event, then we end up being more stressed anyway. And then it leads to, let's say, poor behaviors. It leads to chronic fatigue, tiredness. It leads to more fear. It leads to more worry. And obviously it leads to more stress. So it becomes this never-ending cycle of not really being able to change your way of thinking. And if we can't change our perceptions of the situation or the problems that we currently have, we're only going to end up being more stressed. And these stresses actually cripple you in terms of what you do day to day. So you'll do the bare necessities, go to work, you'll still cook your food, whether it's good or bad food for you. And then you'll end up rolling into the next day and doing what you have to again. And your life becomes that very thing. And something I wrote down the other day, which I'm going to read out to you guys, kind of puts it into a way that I liked. So when I find it for you, 1 second. So the less you move, the less you feel like moving. The more you move, the more you feel like, the more moving you want to do. Energy feeds off energy. So if we don't feel like we've got energy, we won't do anything that requires our energy. And then we won't get any energy back. A body at rest will remain at rest. A body in motion will stay in motion. So we're essentially applying Newton's law of physics to human psychology. If we're in motion, we like to stay in motion. If we're sitting down doing nothing and moving less, that's exactly what we like to do more of. So you have to understand that when you get yourself into a way of moving, eating, sleeping, thinking differently, You have to keep the momentum. You have to keep going, because stress, when it comes and arises, when you're in motion, it's easier to deal with. If you're stagnant and you're moving less, stress becomes a lot more difficult to deal with. So if we're looking at ways that it can affect you, you might feel irritable, angry, impatient, or wound up, overburdened or overwhelmed, anxious, nervous, or afraid, like your thoughts are racing and you can't switch off, obviously anxiety, unable to enjoy yourself, depressed, uninterested in life, like you've lost your sense of humor, a sense of dread, worried or tense, neglected or lonely, existing mental health problems are getting worse. And sometimes you can feel a little bit lost. You can feel a bit stagnant. You can feel like, what am I really doing here? And then once you get into that kind of mindset, you feel like giving up on most things in life. And you just feel like, okay, I'm just going through the motions here. And you normalize all these feelings. You literally normalize every single one of these things. And when it comes down to you actually being able to change your way of thinking, being able to action things every single day, those become the most difficult things you could ever probably comprehend, because when you're experiencing all these feelings, and like we speak about blasted, the bored, lonely, anxious, stressed, tired, emotional, drained, when you feel all these types of things, you're battling against a lot. And it's not just our habits and our behaviors and our neuroplasticity that we're behaving against or acting against. We're feeling all of these things as well. So no wonder we make poor decisions when we're feeling and experiencing all these things. And then we have to look at stress itself. So even though we want to change, even though we want to do things to make ourselves feel better, doing an ice bath, having a heavy weekend on alcohol, having a sick family member, doing a bench press session, doing a squat session, whether it's having an argument with your partner, whether it's sports training, whether it's bills, whether it's a lack of sleep, whether it's exams, whether it's work stress, sports training, all these things are filling up your same cup. And you're doing all of these things every single day. And if you're spilling over, what is going to be the catastrophic effect? Your energy. And when you've got no energy to give, how do you feel as a person? How do you look like? How do you look and feel and act in front of your family members, your kids? Because when we're looking at kids looking at you, and you don't even realize it. And sometimes that's one of the biggest things that I find when I think about having kids myself. What example am I going to be setting them? If they see me working out, they'll want to start exercising and lift just like mum and dad. And if you look at the way in which we develop those habits, a kid will develop that habit, and you're setting them up to have the greatest advantage in life, which is going to be optimal health, minimize stress. And we know how it feels to be stressed. And do we really want our kids and people around us to experience those struggles and experience a certain level of stress that sometimes feels unbearable to have? We don't want that. So we can actually be the beacon of hope and be the person and the role model that the kids look up to and think, well, mommy and daddy are doing that. Or the kids in schools, or someone, your nephews, or whatever it might be, whoever's close to you, these people are looking at you. And when you normalize going out and having heavy weekends, and you normalize eating shit on a Friday and Saturday night, or getting takeaways on a specific night, just because you follow a trend or you follow what the norm is in modern day society and what most people do, your kids will do that as well. They'll do what most people do. And if you don't want that for them, and if you don't want that for yourself, we can't keep stressing our bodies out and doing things when we're in control of those decisions. We're in control of those stresses. So we need to make sure that we're doing the things that essentially make us feel good, and looking at who's looking up to us for influence and who's looking up to us for guidance. So when we're feeling like this is great, I'm winning. We know the feelings that we experience. We feel on top of the world. We're happy, we're energetic, we're confident, we're in motion. When we're in motion, we're moving. When we're stagnant and we're lost and we're not moving, we feel like doing more of that. So we have to make sure that when we're actually in motion, we've got that momentum. How do we keep winning? How do we keep generating that feeling? Because when we're not attaining more, or when we're not accomplishing more, and when we're not surrounded and connecting with people around us, we don't feel like we're winning. And that's a hard place to be. And that's a tough pill to swallow if you're there for too long. And then we look at this mindset. This couldn't get any worse, which, believe it or not, I've probably experienced in the last, 4 weeks, because my health has been compromised and it's got worse. And I'm thinking, how much worse could this get? And if I keep sitting in that way of thinking and not pulling myself out of it, I wonder what that level of stress is actually going to do to my immune system, because stress is like nourishing your body. Okay. If you're overstressing about certain things in your life, you're going to be putting your health at risk. And really, the goal isn't about losing weight, it's health optimization. We want to be in the best possible health to carry us forward every single day, to give our bodies the energy that it requires in order to serve us in the way it needs to. And when your body's not serving you, that's when you'll start questioning yourself. Can this get any worse? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And you're going against psychology and you're going against your mind. And you have to remember that it's you vs you every single day. You're not competing against anyone else. You're competing against your ego. You're competing against your fear, your bad habits. You're competing against self-doubt. You're competing against things that we're distracted by, even your own comfort zone. Everything that you do day to day, whether you're competing against procrastination, you're competing against the lack of discipline that we may have. And you're also, the main thing is, like, you're competing against negative thinking. We don't want to have all these weaknesses. We need to face all of them and move forward and stay emotional, like I said, because that's when we become strong. That's when we become unbeatable. And if we're struggling against all those things, imagine how much stress we're going to build if we're combating those things every single day. So 95% of people are actually reacting to life. They're not really living at all. And it's about 70% of your lives that you live in survival mode. The other 30%, if that, which is still, I reckon, a generous figure. We can really take control of things. We can really do things every single day that make us feel better. Okay. Because a lot of people feel sad, they feel stressed, they feel confused, they feel overwhelmed. And what do you do in those moments? Instant gratification. We do the things that give us dopamine because our brains and our psychology are crying out for it. And we're battling against this really strong chemical in our body. But when you're feeling these things, like, sometimes just go and walk it off. Go outside and go for a walk. And either walk until the problem can be solved, or walk until you actually realize that there's not really a problem. A lot of the time, that problem's not there. It's just how we perceive the problem to be. And that's the toughest bit sometimes, is because when we're reacting, if you think about all the things we have bottled up inside, okay, those things are going to come to the forefront when you react. So it's not really about what people are doing to you, or someone could be extremely horrible, or someone could say something in a certain way, someone could cut you up on the road. How we react to that is what we're bottling up inside. So if you're happy genuinely inside and you're de-stressed and you're feeling confident, you're feeling happy, there's not really much that can affect you. Think about it. The things that we seem to get angry at, the things we seem to get sad at, really and truly, it's the anger and frustrations that we hold within ourselves because there's certain things that we're not happy about. And we have to learn to bring happiness to the forefront now so we can start to relieve the stress, because a lot of the stresses that we have, really and truly, if we change the perception in this very moment right now and learn to be happy with what we have and learn to be happy with where we are, and understand that we can't be upset for the results that we didn't get, the work that we didn't do. And we can't be upset at ourselves because we are in control. We make those decisions. We can choose what we do day to day. So all these things that we tend to struggle with and these things that we hold against ourselves, it's really difficult when you're looking at how most people cope with their emotions. We binge on junk food. We fucking sit there scrolling through social media. Some people have really meaningless connections and relationships. And what should we replace it with? Physical exercise, nourishing our body very well, having genuine connections with people that are good to have in our own environment because they help bring us up, they give us good advice. And if you think about the problems that disappear when we stop doing all the reactions, like eating junk food and scrolling and watching Netflix and giving letting yourself off the hook pretty much and making excuses for yourself. When you stop doing all those things, you'll start to realize that you actually can really take control. So always think about what is the next step. you can't see into the future, but what you can see is the next step or the next actionable step that you can take. And you get overwhelmed, you get anxious by thinking how far you have to go and how much you want to achieve, and the comparison to other people and what they're doing. You may look inside the program sometimes and be like, this person's lost weight, or this person's looking great, or this person's been action all these things, and this person is, engaging fully and getting everyone hyped up. But sometimes those people struggle as well. It's just your perception of that again. You could be that person. You could be the happy, the confident, the energetic, the one that brings everyone else up. Because when you give more, you get more. Okay. When you give more, you actually feel the fulfillment in what you're doing. And if you look at the missing gap here, I shared this the other week. If we're looking at the missing gap here, you've got goals on the left, you've got your accomplishments on the right. Goals are meaningless without actions. How do we action things? How do we build habits? Self-discipline. Self-discipline sits in the middle of that bridge for you to be able to climb over and achieve what you need to achieve. Doesn't matter whether you're tired, whether you're stressed, whether you're angry, whether you're upset, whether you've had the longest day in the world. When you have self-discipline, despite all of that, and you do the things that you said you would do, despite how you feel, irrespective of what's going on around you, that's when you can actually start to feel the differences in your behaviors. And we need to build these habits. Building habits is really difficult. Remember I said about neuroplasticity. By the time you're 25, your habits and behaviors are solidified. Those neural pathways are there. And it's really hard to break the mold and change those habits. But, when you feel too tired to work out, you're tired because you don't work out. It's not because you're just tired. You're tired because you don't work out. Even strength training, it will give you that energy. You'll feel better in yourself. You'll sleep better. You'll look better. You'll be more confident. So we have to almost eliminate the excuses, and we have to get those things done. That is what self-discipline is going to do for you. So if we look at recovery methods, most important thing, number one, above exercise, above nutrition, get your sleep in. When you don't sleep, your body is naturally more stressed. You'll be absolutely fucked if you don't get your sleep in. It is absolutely imperative that sleep is the number one thing you get every single day. If you wake up with poor sleep, you'll be more hungry, more tired, more reactive, more emotional. You're going to be drained. You're going to be, probably, when it comes down to the efforts you put in everything that you do, you'll probably be operating at 50%. So keep your body in one piece. Like I said to you, stress is stress. Filling up the same cup. You have to look after yourself psychologically and physically. Okay. You have to plan relaxation into your day. And then you have to look at what you're doing in your program. And is it appropriate in terms of the load management and what you're doing? Because sometimes I set people stuff and they can't adhere to it. And I'm thinking, is it a problem with the program and how much they have to do? Or is it an adherence thing? Because we all know that we regret skipping a workout. Nobody regrets showing up and doing things despite how they feel. The hardest part of the gym is actually showing up in the first place. Going to the gym early in the morning is getting out of bed in the morning. That's half the battle. And sometimes when you've walked through the door, you've already won half the battle. Just walking through the gym door is half the battle sometimes. And once you've won half the battle, the other half is easy. And nutrition is your X factor. You have to provide your body with the building blocks that it actually needs. Protein is probably it is the most essential thing for keeping your body ticking the way it needs to tick. Okay. Like I said to you, you're always feeling tired if you don't get enough sleep, if you don't move or exercise enough, if you're not hydrating your body well enough, if you're not eating healthy foods that are actually nourishing for your body, or if you're not getting outside enough. It's not that you're a broken person, you can't do all these things. You just need, you have bad habits that actually need breaking in itself. So what could actually help? These are the things that I believe could help you guys. And why I put them down is because they've worked for me. Okay. So meditate. Find some form of meditation that really helps you. There's a few people in the group who have struggled so bad mentally and physically lately. And when they start doing all these things, and I'm going to tell you, they're being more honest and open with themselves. They're telling their friends, their family, which means they're laughing more. They're connecting with others more. And when you assert yourself in a way where people understand you and they're like, and they can understand, so not even just understand you, but when people get you and you're honest with how you feel, what you're going through, you'll get more help. And people will be very understanding because of that. You could try things like yoga, Pilates, anything that's good for your body that helps it become relaxed after doing it. Get enough sleep. Again, like you're going to hear me keep banging on about this, guys. Sleep is so important. Stop the late nights and doing all those things that make you feel like crap. Keep a bloody journal. Try it. Just try and keep it every day. Just get into the habit of doing it. Break the mold of watching TV at night. Break the mold of scrolling on your phone and, looking at football scores and looking at bloody Netflix series. Just try and do me a huge favor. Just do it. I don't know how much it can help you guys. Honestly, be creative. Do something different. Like plan something that is out of the norm for you, and something like counseling or therapy or whatever it might be. These things can really help. Okay, like even like I said at the top, getting active is probably one of the easiest things you can actually do to actually start the process. And we have to stop normalizing things like having no energy or not getting enough sleep, staying up late and drinking all night. Start normalizing the things that are actually going to make you feel good. The morning sunlight. Not that we get loads, because it's probably been raining outside today. But walking every day, hydrating yourself, lifting weights, doing some form of cardio, whether it's walking, running, or cycling, or going on the row machine. And you'll see your mental and physical health improve always. These things will massively move the needle forward to you, and they'll keep you in motion and keep the momentum. And lastly, I just want to bring you to this. I'm not sure how long we've done here, but hopefully it's not too long for you guys. When we look at the problems that come from many of the root causes, and we'll go for the root causes first. We've got stress as our number one thing that we discussed today. We've got things like predisposed genetics. We have immune balances, medications, food intolerances, nutritional deficiencies, which is often in our control, toxins, exposure, poor digestion. And then we look at all the things above. We've got problems like anxiety, autoimmune diseases, obesity, irritable bowel, diabetes, cancer, normal diabetes, well, I've got diabetes twice, sorry, heart disease, chronic fatigue, arthritis. And the ones that we probably experience day to day is chronic fatigue. We probably feel anxious. We're, essentially battling against obesity. Some of us probably have irritable bowels and bloatedness. And then obviously looking at autoimmune diseases, which most people don't really know they have. Well, I didn't know I had it. I probably do have it. It's never the problems. And we often treat problems. We try and treat our fatigue with more food. We try and treat obesity with trying to go into a calorie deficit. The calorie deficit is not the problem. The problem is our habits. It's our behaviors. It's our neuroplasticity that we've already built. And if we're looking at the root causes, again, the root causes are driven by our behaviors and the habits that we have day to day. So if we want more from our life and we want more from just simple day-to-day things, we can learn to be happy as we are, and we can eliminate stress as much as possible by how we perceive things. And a lot of the time, your perceptions of your problems and the excuses we make for why we should or shouldn't do things, and the lack of energy to go to the gym, despite it is the gym that is the very thing that's going to give us energy, the food we eat for a quick dopamine hit, rather than learning to have habits that actually provide us with the right energy. When it comes to physical, mental, and emotional, our behaviors are driving everything. And a lot of the things that we believe aren't in our control are probably actually in our control. And if we want to combat the root causes here, especially stress, knowing that even good stress fills up the same cup as bad stress, we have to make sure that we are well equipped for what we're doing. You can't just roll out your bed in the morning and expect to get results. You can't just get home at night and just eat a meal that's completely unplanned with a lack of nutrients and just rushed. Can't keep snacking on the sofa, watching TV, probably eating up to 30% more snacks just by mindless eating. We can't keep hanging around with people that normalize really poor health. We want health optimization. We want good health. We want to be the beacon of hope for a lot of people around us. And you have that ability. You have all the things that you necessarily need in this moment right now to be able to be a beacon of hope for others, to be a positive influence, to actually guide people and, you know, inspire people in a way where they haven't been inspired before. But sometimes you allow your behaviors and your habits and what you do and your actions to come down to where people are. And it's a hard thing. Like, I understand it. I understand it's hard to be open. It's hard to be transparent. It's hard to be honest with yourself. It's hard to know who you are. You know, you have to ask yourself the question, do you really understand you? Because until we understand ourselves, we can't actually make those changes. And we're forever going to feel lost trying to action things, not really understanding ourselves. And if your level of thinking doesn't change with your actions, you're always going to go back and revert back to those same behaviors, because that's the person who you are. If you don't understand that person and what changes that person needs to make, then we're forever going to be stuck in this stressful cycle. So I hope that helps, guys. There's a lot of actions there you can implement straight away. Hope you understand why stress can really inhibit a lot of things. And let me know what your key takeaways are. I think I'm uploading this to YouTube, and then I'll send you guys a link. But yeah, I hope this helps, and I hope you guys can really take something from it. So I'll stop the share there.